You are listening to an episode of Megan is Not a Parent, But. Today's episode is brought to you by Positive Parenting Class Pass. 6 simple positive parenting classes to kickstart your positive parenting journey. You can start today at bekindcoaching.com/class pass. Before I get into the episode, I'm going to do something different because just this week I had something pretty magic happen and I wanted to share it with you. I had someone join in to Positive Parenting Class Pass, and after 2 days of being a member, she emailed me this win. She was so excited. She went on to describe a typical scenario involving replacing something that her son lost and was anticipating that it was going to be met with a big power struggle. And I just wanted to take a little bit of a moment to highlight her win. So she is a mom of 2, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And she went on to share her win. She said, instead of my usual, I know you're mad about what they had at the store. You're going to want, if you want slime, then pink is what you get. I genuinely said, sorry. Oh, that is so disappointing, is it? I know you don't like pink, and I'm so sorry that that's all they had. I know how much you loved your green slime, and now I'm telling you you've got pink. I'd be really disappointed too. And I'm sorry that happened. He calmed down in record time. Connection, who knew? Well, you did, LOL, but I was floored. You are an absolute genius. We couldn't have been more grateful. And I felt so good connecting with him in that way. I couldn't believe that that was only the bump in our afternoon. Normally we would have had a hard time getting over that slime. I would have been stressed and he would have been mad and acting out in other ways. I would have been more stressed and eventually I would have yelled, probably even before dinner. We had none of that, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I'm starting the class on connection today in Class Pass. I got this email and I was like, ooh, air pump fisting in the air. I was so excited. I was like, yes. And then just yesterday, I got another update. After 1 week of being a Class Pass member, she said, we've had so many, many more wins by just using connection. I'm still working through the classes and I'm currently on empowerment. We've also had some bumps as expected. And after working through these classes and seeing them in practice, we will lean into the support calls to help smooth any remaining bumps out. But this is the biggest win. I haven't yelled since we spoke a week ago. Now I understand that parenting is a skill and I am determined to learn how to do it well. We've had the most pleasant week with the kids that I can remember. Thanks so much. Yeah, Chelsea's clapping in the chat because she's here live. I was clapping too, and I thought, I want to share this because sometimes when you probably hear me week after week talking about Class Pass, and what is it? And I really wanted to highlight that when you show up, you align, you dig in, and you invest time and energy educating and practice, you get big results. So I was here to call her out and celebrate that. Continue doing the work. All right, now I'll get back on to the regular show. In today's episode, today we will be chatting about the Fawn trauma response, what it looks like and what it feels like in adaptive and maladaptive ways. So I invite you to get cozy, grab your notebook, and let's begin. Welcome to Megan is Not a Parent, But, the podcast where I, your host, Megan Ford, former early childhood educator turned positive parenting coach, helps parents just like you learn how to deal with your strong-willed child's difficult behavior. I've been described from my clients as a blend between Brene Brown and Miss Frizzle, you know, the one from the Magic School Bus. I help bring awareness and hold space for the hard conversations and make big concepts like behavior and relationships and temperaments easy to understand and easy to implement. If you're a parent who struggles with your child's loud, dramatic, disruptive, over-the-top behavior, but don't think a parenting coach would help you because those are just for the bad parent or those parents, then this episode is especially for you. I invite you to grab a journal, a cozy blanket, a warm beverage, and enjoy what you're about to explore. Today is our final episode on this series, just digging into asking what is trauma, what is childhood trauma, and just what is the function of it and how can we start to become aware of it. I really use this series as a way to bring awareness and education and hopefully destigmatize this concept. as a disclaimer, I'm a parenting coach, and this information, as we've been talking through, is for education and entertainment purposes. It is not a substitution for professional mental health support. I am closing this series just as I opened this series by saying you are safe and worthy to ask for help and support. We are starting this episode, as I've started every episode in this series, by sharing that we are perfectly designed to survive. It is our brain's main focus. When we are out in the wild, we encounter threats, like we've been using the concept of a tiger, and our brain starts to protect us in ways to help us survive. And we start making assumptions so that when we are out in the wild and we come across clues, they pique our interest so that they alert us to possible threats. And then our brains fill in the gaps. Is that a threat? Is that a tiger? What do I need to do so that I can survive? And those adaptive strategies that help keep us survive when we are in face with a real threat like a tiger, those adaptive strategies can become maladaptive strategies when we are making those assumptions when we are not in the presence of a real threat. So we've been using this concept as like a cat. So we are out in the wild, we're navigating these moments, and we see something, and our brain interprets it as a tiger, but in fact, it's actually a cat. So when our brain is perceiving those threats, be it real or be it not, it activates our defense response. And what I like to say is that I help parents remove fear-based punishments because punishments inflict pain. Pain initiates defense, and fear-based punishments elicit defense. We start working in resistance. Those defenses are adaptive when in the presence of a real threat, and it becomes maladaptive when we perceive the threat that's not really there. So here, how the nervous system responds to trauma is the flow chart that we've been working through in this series. So we are asking ourselves, how does the nervous system respond to trauma? The question here, we start by asking, can I escape? If we can escape, we go to flight. The next question down is, can I overpower? If the answer is yes, we go to fight. If it's no, we go to the next level. Will it lose interest? If the answer is yes, we go to freeze. And if it is no, we go to fawn. And today we're digging into the fawn response. This whole series is helping us start to accept stress as normal, knowing that our brains are working in alignment with what our experiences are. We've been talking through the hand model of the brain, those three levels: the reptilian brain, am I safe? The midbrain, am I loved? And then the executive brain, what am I learning? Becoming aware of when those signals are going off that are keeping us stuck in that defense mode. We've been leaning into understanding and becoming aware of those physiological stress responses too. The pupils dilating to take in more light, the hearing turning up, the heart beating faster, the mouth breathing, the muscle tensing, and the stomach fluttering. Noticing when our minds are racing, the pain perception is being reduced, and noticing that our cortisol and our adrenaline is starting to pump. Those are our signs to say, hey, we are feeling some sort of defense. There's some sort of activation here. As a reflection, this is the fourth episode in this series on stress. So season 5, episode 14 is all about the fight response. Season 5, episode 15 is all about the flight, the running away. Season 5, episode 16 is all about the freeze response. And today we're digging into fawn. Fawn types protect themselves from threats through placation. What this means is when they are in the presence of a threat, those tigers, they use the fawn response to become submissive, to avoid conflict. They say yes to appease the threat. And they do this so that it helps protect the image and perception from outside threats. If I can make myself smaller, if I can appease, then the threat will go away. right? We've made it all the way through. We know we can't outrun it. We know that we can't outpower it. And we know that it's not going to lose interest. And so we fawn and we submit. It becomes maladaptive when we start kind of teetering on the other side. We start being over accommodating to others. We start to ignore our own desires and needs. And then we begin to lose our sense of self. We start focusing on, what do I need to do to appease the threats around me? And when we've been talking through this, we can see this in observable behavior. So the observable behavior is someone who is engaging in a fawn response, someone who is triggered into their defense. It will have many observable behaviors. So this is a person who over apologizes, who says sorry quickly and often. This is someone who has a difficult time saying no. So there's someone who will always say yes, 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 then go over capacity, probably snap and get quite resentful. That's a sign to say, hey, there's a threat here. They're interpreting some threat here. This is also someone who is excessive in the flattery. They're working to make friends. They're working to keep everybody happy around them. And they're doing it out of protection. They're going out of their way to help please others. They may be pretending to agree. This is someone where you're like, wait a second, I thought that you liked it a different way. It's when you start to see them show up and it's like, wait a second, that wasn't the same last week. Why is it different now? It's observable behavior to say, hey, something's going on here. Like, are they stressed? Are they interpreting? How can I help support them? This is also someone who complies to avoid the threat. This is when we say why we want to remove threats from our parenting toolbox. If I say do this or else, they're doing it to avoid the or else. They're not doing it because they want to do it. They are often called people pleasing. This is also someone who may struggle with boundaries. They may not even have boundaries, and they may start to feel very activated when practicing boundaries, because boundaries was something from early on that was unsafe. It was something that was not practiced. It's a skill that is not harnessed because it's survival. Remember, our brains are designed to keep us alive. They may be someone who is scared to share their true self, or an easy pushover, performative even. It's someone you're like, something's just off. They're always really nice. Like, they're very nice, but something's uneasy about them. They also engage in surface level engagement. So when things get too heavy, it's like, ooh, too much. Nope. Brain break moment. All right. I know that I can go deep way fast. So let's just take a pause here to take a deep breath in and let it out. And listen while I let you know that this episode is brought to you by me, Megan, and my Positive Parenting Class Pass. Positive Parenting Class Pass are 6 simple positive parenting classes to kickstart your positive parenting journey. Those classes include Positive Parenting 101, which is a class that is just designed to give you the first steps in what positive parenting is and what it is not. Second class is Emotional Validation. In this class, we dig into how can we show up to have your child feel seen and heard in their lived experience. The third class is Setting Boundaries, all about communicating, enforcing, and allowing testing of your secure and consistent and firm boundaries. The fourth class is a class called Ending Entitlement. Inside of this class, we dig into how we are showing up using tools of entitlement and how we can start to release those tools and begin practicing tools of empowerment and choice. And we know that what we put down, they're going to pick up. The fifth class is a class all about natural consequences. This is a class that gets very clear, and you'll walk away knowing what an imposed consequence is, what a logical consequence is, and most importantly, how to begin utilizing natural consequences so your children begin learning from their lived experience. And the final class is a class all about apologizing. I like to say that connection is the most skipped over step and recovery is the least utilized step. So in that step, you'll start to learn how to show up and use impactful and effective apologies so that your child knows that you see them and hear them and care about them. If you are looking to begin your journey today, then I highly encourage you go to bekindcoaching.com/ClassPass and dig into the classes starting today. As my free gift, you will receive Raising Respectful Kids, which is my 3-part video series all about how to stop focusing on adding on more decorations to your child and to you and to your relationship, and instead starting to reinforce and build a solid and secure foundation together. I can't wait to hear all of your amazing wins from the steps that you take inside of Positive Parenting ClassPass. All right, ready to get back to our episode? Before we get back, let's take one more deep breath together. And take a deep breath in and let it out. And let's go. I want to take a pause here and say these are observable behaviors, and we know that behavior is communication, and we're knowing that what our behavior is communicating is indicating something that's going on below the surface. It's not the label of this person. It's not the label of what they do. In my world, labels denotes care required. So when we are noticing this, or when we are noticing this in ourselves, it's the flag, it's the alert to say, hey, something's here to investigate. There's something here. Is there a tiger or is there a cat? So when we're observing these behaviors, it's really just that flag to say, oop, let's pay attention here. Oop, what's going on here? Another observable behavior is someone who doesn't give an opinion. They're just like, yeah, I'm cool with anything. Now, I am someone who I can be flexible. I can go easy, go with the flow, but I also feel very empowered to speak my mind. So this is also a time to remember that if you're identifying with one of these, I want you to ask yourself, is this something that is serving me or is it protecting me? Is this something that is limiting me? Do I feel like I have to say yes or have to not have an opinion? Or do I feel safe enough to express my opinion if I did have an opinion? Have I even slowed down to even ask and consider, do I have an opinion on this? It's someone who is thinking of others' comfort before their own, someone who is overly thoughtful and ultimately submissive. I think about, I was watching a TikTok video the other day of a goat and there was a dog and it was a goat and they were in the field and the goat started jumping around and the dog went over and chased and barked at the goat and the goat played dead. It just fawned over. It just was like, it just totally fell over. And I was like, wow, yep, there it is. The goat is saying, nope, threat, I'm submissive. Nope, not me. I'll do whatever you want. I'll blend in. In the work that I do, when we talk about top cards, when we're talking about stress, this is someone who's a chameleon. They blend in. They blend in as a way to, remove the threat or the perceived threat. So if you are noticing that you are in the company with this or of this, I want you to know that that person, they are not giving you a hard time. They are having a hard time. This is a time for you to do your part. And part means to be present with them, to attune to them, to speak in ways that resonate with them, and to help build trust. Remember, trust is that outcome of doing our part. Failure to do our part ruptures trust. So how do we do our part? In those times, we can act as gasoline, as we've been sharing every single time. When someone is engaging in those observable behaviors, our actions may have impacts on the relationship. Those gasoline moments, those are quick movements, those are adding pressure, those are loud vocals, punishments, trying to get them to admit to something, using threats, and speaking promises that you cannot keep, things that you have no interest on following through on. When those happen, they act as gasoline. They actually exacerbate the stress response. If someone is already stressed, adding our anger on top of it or adding our own judgments or pressure on top of it exacerbates that response. It stresses them out more. We can also, on the flip side, after we've become aware of the gasoline, we can also become an extinguisher. We can help regulate someone. We can help someone start to feel safe. And we do that by creating the sense of safety. We regulate our nervous system. We help co-regulate their nervous system. We help build that connection. We start to practice power with strategies, and we start to practice patience. And the result of that is that we start to build those social emotional skills together, those relationship skills together, those positive conflict resolution skills together. The more we do this work for us, the more we can share it. I'm going to call out Tisha. Tisha is forever saying, I am doing this work. The more I work on me, the more they benefit. And I co-sign on that so hard. The more we ask for help and support, the more help and support we have to give, because we are helped and supported. This reminds me of this morning's morning ritual where we were talking about this. We had the card that came up that said, form a new alliance to break out of limited perspectives and grow into spaces you didn't even know existed. Partner up. A strategic culture of sharing and remembering you're not alone is needed. And how powerful that, in essence, is connection. Being able to come with someone, help them build trust, help them feel safe, and help them grow in spaces that they didn't even know possible. That's a powerful practice. And I know that's the practice that if you're here listening now, that you're aiming and striving to do with your children and in your home and in your relationships and with yourself. So in closing, this is the last time we're going to visit these questions. Let's consider, now that we're on the final side of the series, have you begun to notice your own signs of stress? Have you started to notice, hey, I'm doing some of these observable behaviors. I'm engaging in fight. I'm engaging in flight. I'm engaging in freeze. I'm engaging in fawn. Those are the signs of stress. We can interpret them to mean that I'm bad or that this is bad, or we can interpret them to say, hey, there's an alarm going off. Let me listen to the alarm. It could just mean that the smoke detector needs some batteries, right? It just needs some attention. On the flip side, have you begin to notice your signs of safety? Have you started to identify spaces that you feel safe in, people you feel safe with? This is something that came up recently on a TikTok live. Someone came to me and said, well, I'm trying to be their safe space. And I said, if I talk to your son, would they say my mom is my safe space? And she said, oh, no, And that's what I said. Do you see, intentions are not meeting our desired impact. So where is the spot that we can start to grow in? What are the missing tools? What are the missing skills, the habits, the beliefs, the values, the supports there? Just like the win from the beginning of the episode. What's going on there? What are the spaces that we can kind of illuminate and dig into? So what habits support your sense of safety? And what habits support your sense of stress? Let's start to look at this from a habit standpoint. And let's start to upgrade those habits. You are a good and worthy person. They are good and worthy people. Those stress responses are there to clue us in, to ring the alarm, to alert us that we are feeling some sort of duress. And let's work to become safe people in ourselves. I have loved doing this series. I am so grateful that if you're here listening now and you've listened to the others, I'm so grateful. I think that the word trauma is a very alerting word, and it can be very scary for some. And I'm hopeful that now that we've just kind of like, let's just look at it, let's just hold it, let's just talk about it, let's start to peek behind it. Now we can have I'm not going to say an easier sense. I don't think there's anything easy about trauma, but hopefully now we can start to hold it in a little different light. And if you've been taking notes, if you have had light bulb moments, I want to see it. I love hearing wins and hearing how you have begun to take action in this work. I love it. So if you've taken notes or if you have any thoughts and takeaways, I want to know it. And I encourage you to share in these 3 ways. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts. You can share your thoughts and takeaways on social media and tag me. And you can share your thoughts inside our dedicated post inside of our Facebook community, Positive Parenting with Megan Ford. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying to the end. Ooh, I'm getting a bit emotional. My mission in life is to help support parents in feeling supported and empowered in doing this work. And I think that word empowered just like screamed out to me. Just this week, a member court has been navigating morning routine. It was going well, and then something got off course, and now she's getting back on track. She came this morning and celebrated her win during morning ritual. And in reflection, she was able to say, in other times when I was disengaged from doing this work, I felt powerless. And now that I'm re-engaged, reinvigorated, I now start to feel empowered. And when I can hear that from my clients, I am like, yes, Yes, if we're feeling powerless, it's an invitation to say, hey, how can I step into spaces that will empower me so that I can start to feel empowered? This podcast, my Facebook community, and my programs and book club all help parents work through those phases of awareness, education, and practice. So if you are ready for the next step, I highly encourage you to check out ClassPass and specifically revisit or visit again the Connections class. In the Connections class, we dig into emotional validation. In this class, it will help you balance your parenting toolbox by helping you connect with your child in a way that helps them feel safe, seen, and heard. To get started today, you can visit bekindcoaching.com/ClassPass. And as my free gift to you, you are welcomed into Raising Respectful Kids as well. Thank you so much for being here, and I cannot wait to see you next week. Bye, friends.